All right. Perfect. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Mailing Rodriguez. We will officially call the meeting to order at 3:03. Thanks, everyone, for being here. And we need to establish our quorum. We have a quorum? Perfect. So great to see folks in person as well as our handy dandy Zoom. I think what we'll do is we'll first start here in the room doing just a brief hello, the area that you're representing, and then we will switch on to Zoom and do introductions. So Mailing Rodriguez, I use pronouns she, her, and I am the chair. Nice to see everyone.
Good afternoon, all. Jody Barker, Area Agency on Aging Director.
Good afternoon, Dave Betzler, just a member representing Northern El Paso County and Tri-Lakes Area Monument.
Paula Levy. I represent Teller County, and I am starting a new consulting for business for caregivers, Never Alone Consulting.
Good afternoon, Danielle McCarthy. Mailing invited me as a guest to also apply to be part of the board. I just haven't turned in my application. A little background on myself. I was a caregiver for over 10 years, caring for my husband, who was 100% disabled vet. I also started a small consulting firm, just like Paul is getting ready to do, called Vibrant Caregiving, where I worked with caregivers facing the same challenges that I was also certified through the Rosalind Carter Institute of Caregiving as a REACH certified individual, which is Resources Enhancing Alzheimer's Caregivers Health. And I also have worked with veterans in crisis, and I took care of my mom all the way through to her hospice and her death in my home. So, and I consulted with the Pikes, not the Pikes Peak area, but the Area Agency on Aging Region 10, which is Montrose, Delta, Hinsdale, that area. So very familiar with what everybody does.
Fantastic. Yeah, we have a great team, and looking forward to the Zoom. If we wanted to do a round of introductions, I'll call out, and then if you just wanted to hopscotch it. So Dayton, if you wanted to say hi.
So sorry. I'm actually pulling up to be in person here shortly, but my name is Dayton Romero. Just newly voted in on this great team, and I, as far as my day job, am with Silver Key. I'm Director of Healthcare Strategy and Integration. I also have some dealings in other areas where I serve as chair for the Innovations in Aging Collaborative Board, chair for the Colorado Coalition on Elder Rights and Abuse Prevention, and vice chair for the Rocky Mountain Healthcare Services PACE Board as well. So doing my best to contribute in the field of aging, and looking to contribute to this team, and looking forward to today's conversation and seeing everyone in person. I'm literally walking in right now. So see everyone shortly.
Perfect. Thanks, Dayton. Amy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm stepping out of another meeting. So my name is Amy Mitchell. I'm a Park County Commissioner, and I am offering myself as just a resource for Park County to help lend the perspective of Park County to the Commission on Aging. And I really appreciate all the work that you guys do on behalf of the 3 counties within the PPACG. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to the meeting.
Are there any other members that would like to introduce themselves? Okay, so I will go on to guests. Mary, did you want to say hi?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Mary Duran. I work for UC Health, formerly was with the Senior Center. Being a part of UC Health, I am the older adult outreach manager. So my territory is El Paso and Teller County at the moment. Get to do a lot of great things within the hospital system to make sure we're serving our older adults in the best way we can. So I'm remoting in from Michigan, and my family is having dinner at the moment. So if you hear background noise or someone coming in, that's what's going on. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being with us. Lucy, did you want to say hi?
Sure. Hi, I'm Lucy with the Seniors Blue Book, and just finally was able to at least listen in on a meeting. So happy to be here.
Perfect. And then Deidre, did you want to introduce yourself?
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Deidre Worley. I'm a detective with the Colorado Springs Police Department Crimes Against At-Risk Adult Unit. And I know that the Pikes Peak Council of Government and Commission on Aging pretty much so crosses lines on a lot of the committees that I'm in. So I'm just sitting in to see what I can learn this afternoon. Thanks.
Thanks for being here. And then we'll go to staff, Jessica, and yeah, go ahead and say hi.
I'm Jessica McMullen. I'm the PPACG Policy and Communications Manager.
And sitting behind Dave Betzler, I'm Melissa, and I'm the Program Development Administrator, and also doing my best to run the technology.
Perfect. So we are going to go ahead and do our consent items. So we have our agenda and minutes. If there are no recommendations for review, I would say that we would do both of them together as a consent item. If I could get a motion to approve both the agenda and the minutes, unless there's any comments.
I move to approve as a consent motion for both of the agenda and the minutes.
I second. Paula.
Okay. So thanks, Dave and Paula. And we will go ahead to line 2, public. Oh, can we get call for discussion and then vote on the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
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 Second one to the right.
Aye.
Okay, thanks everyone. We are approved. Perfect. So we are going to go ahead to our public comments. We have not received any public comment unless I'm incorrect, Melissa. Okay. Do our guests? Do any guests have public comments? Okay. Okay, so then we will go ahead to our community presentations. We don't have any at the moment. So we will go to our action items. So we have a need for a vice chair. We did a call out of recommendations of folks feeling like they would be a good fit or recommending someone. So that is on the docket right now. Would anyone like to put their name forward or suggest anyone?
And since you have 2 members coming on, you can lay that over to a future vote if they'd like to know more about the responsibilities. Mm-hmm.
So we have, so we are going to extend that to our May meeting to have further discussions on the vice chair opportunity, for everyone is okay with that. Perfect. So then our membership vote, Mary Duran. So Mary, would you like to say a couple of words about yourself? I know you gave your introduction, but really excited to have you on the team, your knowledge of aging issues, and yeah, go ahead and just say a couple more words about yourself and then we'll put it to a vote.
Sure. So I'm not sure if everyone knows me, but I went to Abilene Christian University. I've majored in gerontology as well as health promotion. So passionate about serving older adults, and I have for my whole career. I am passionate about the commission as well, and innovations started it. I'm on the innovations board, and it's a way to really look at issues at large and how do we get that into community hands, but those policymaker hands as well. And so I appreciate the work that you're doing and the way that you're engaged in the community to bring those issues at large. I had been worked with Jody, had been the director of the Senior Center for about 4 years, but had been there a total of 7 years. So very ingrained on the community level about older adults' needs and the services they have, and really listening to their voices and being connected with them on the ground level. Now I'm in a hospital system that is very large, but really looking at how do we service older adults in the medical field. And why I took this position was a lot of older adults, their daily interaction is seeing the doctor, and that's it. They don't have any other community connection or engagement. And so I'm passionate about meeting older adults within that space to make sure they're connected. They have all the services they need, they feel loved, and then be able to have a purpose. My reach, my position is new for our region and new for UC Health at large. So there's a lot of great things that we can do with my position and move it into different ways and different areas. So that's all about me. What else? I have chickens. That's kind of fun. I have chickens. They're my pets. Yeah.
Thank you, Mary, for your introduction. I did not know of Mary, which is shocking because she's been around for a while. I moved to approve Mary's membership as a commissioner. Any seconds?
Amy Mitchell, I second.
Amy Mitchell seconded. Welcome aboard, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Is there any further discussion on this item?
I'd just like to say, I look forward to working with you. It's a great background. And I like that you're passionate about communications and outreach to seniors. I think that's really great, especially in a new position. So I think it's really good that you're coming on as a commissioner.
Thank you. Hopefully I'll be able to meet you all in person here next month.
Okay, we will bring it to a vote. All in favor of approving Mary?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any opposed? Okay. Approved. Welcome, Mary. Excited to have you. Yay. Perfect. So we are now going to go to number 5, our information items. I'm going to extend it back to Paula for our membership committee.
So we had an executive meeting a few weeks ago to discuss items regarding membership and how we could encourage more involvement and recruit more members to the commission. We came up with several ideas, including some type of an orientation to welcome in new members and let them know what they're actually getting into. I've yet to have that orientation, and I'm looking forward to learning along with our new members. And so we are also looking to having more social media presence on the PPACG Facebook page, and hopefully being able to just when we're out and about, being able to talk up the commission and let people know that we're a part of something that's really making a difference in seniors' lives.
Thanks, Paula. Great working with you and very excited for this momentum that we're building up here. So I'm going to extend it to 5B Policy Committee. Jessica McMullen and I are supporting each other on this. I'm going to let Jessica take it away and give us some updates. Thanks, Jessica.
Okay, thank you all so much. As you know, the PPACG Legislative Committee meets weekly to discuss bills as they're upcoming and look at it through the PPACG legislative themes lens. I wanted to provide you an update on some of the bills that have really related to older adults that PPACG's committees have looked at. Some of those bills were Senate Bill 159. It's a revolving loan to fund and invest in affordable housing. This actually specifies within the bill's details that it prioritizes repairs for older adults' homes as one of their goals. And PPACG, your memo says that we monitored it, but actually just voted on Monday to move to support on it. 172 is a rural health care workforce initiative. Again, this is one, because so many older adults live in rural areas, this is something we wanted to make sure to support. And there are Senate Bill 146, a middle income program expansion, which will help older adults who are finding themselves kind of in a hole for housing and needing assistance with that. Senate Bill 53, health facility visitations during pandemic. This was one we strongly supported, as well as House Bill 221199, which is visitation requirements for healthcare facilities. During the pandemic, we saw that there was a lot of trouble with older adults and their needs to have visitation and to ensure that it was done safely. So the PPACG Legislative Committee has been engaging pretty actively on that. And then House Bill 221137, which is a homeowners association board accountability and transparency, which we're supporting. And that became an issue due to a PPACG issue because of an older adult who actually lost her home because of her homeowners association and a variety of misunderstandings and caregiver problems and language. And the legislature heard some of the issues that we brought forth as well as others and proposed that bill. Does anyone have any questions about any of the bills that were in that update? Want to know anything more about how the legislative committee works, or?
Jessica, this is Dave. On the last one you mentioned, the HOA accountability and management bill. Tell me a little bit more about the position that the PPACG took on that.
So we took a support position on that bill. Because we do believe that it will address some of the concerns that we saw for older adults, where we wanted to ensure that homeowners associations were being required to do outreach in more than the minimum way. It controls some of the limitations on fines and fees that can be established. So we did choose to support that bill.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And Jessica, do you also sit on the Center or the Colorado Center on Aging calls on Monday mornings?
I attend those. I'm not a member of it, of the CCA, but I listen to those calls because we use that information to provide it to our legislative committee.
Sure.
I feel like it's very important for them to know what the broader senior community is hearing and seeing and saying.
Great. I am a member and I've just started to listen in on those calls also.
They're important.
Thank you, Jessica. So that is going to, Jessica's representation is going to cover both the policy and the legislative committee. So we appreciate that update. And then we will go ahead to the chair report. So today's meeting is a little bit different. I feel like we're working through a lot of the items as we go rather than me giving the broad scope. On a personal note, I just wanted to make an announcement that I've accepted an ED position with Pikes Peak Elder Justice Center. So very excited for that. Excited to continue great work in the new capacity in the community, and excited to continue to have important collaborations. And also excited for us as we continue to move forward, especially the summer with strategic planning, being really thoughtful and intentional, is having further discussions on how we can really involve our committee members, board members to be really effective. So we will be discussing that in our discussion items of having a workshop style process in May, but I'm going to first turn it over to Jody to give some of his outlooks. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Maylene, and congratulations on your new position. Yeah, it's very exciting for us from the Area Agency on Aging perspective, because several members of our staff have been supporting the Pikes Peak Elder Justice Center with technical and other supports over the last several years, and very excited to share that we were able to submit a grant under the Senate Bill 21-290 fund established last year with the state legislature. We were able to submit a grant, and we received the full ask of our grant to support the Pikes Peak Elder Justice Center. So we're very excited about that. As we have more details, we'll certainly be sharing that. We're waiting on the final documents, but we have received our notice of funding. And so we're just waiting on things from the state. But to give a little bit of perspective, it was $15 million set aside by the legislature last year. Could only be accessed through a grant process by AAAs across the state. And as you know, there are 16 of us across the state. And with that in mind, there were 116 projects total applied for. They distributed about 2/3 of the funds. I don't know. I didn't do the count on how many projects that covered. They're doing a second wave here in the coming weeks to distribute the rest of the funding. But we're very excited that our project with the Pikes Peak Elder Justice Center was selected as one of those to be granted in full. But also because the Elder Justice Center program was the only program in the first round approved for funding that had any specific mental health or behavioral health component. A lot of these funds were specifically set aside for AAAs for infrastructure and capital growth. You may or may not know our Older American Act funding and Older Coloradans Act funding is specifically for programs and services. We can't build a kitchen with it. We can't build a senior center with it. It has to go directly to services. And so that does create some challenges when we see those needs. And so we're very fortunate that AAAs had a voice in the process all the way from before the bill was written, all the way to being able to be part of the policy and procedures that were written that enabled us to then later write our grants. So it's a very interesting process, but we got to be part of that and put our older adults' voices and needs into that process. So we're very excited to be able to support the Elder Justice Center with that grant that's coming. So also wanted to share, wasn't able to be with you in March because I was in Washington, D.C. with the U.S. aging policy briefing that happened at that time. I also sit as a board member of U.S. Aging. Danielle, you may recognize N4A as part of the discussions. That's the National Association of Area Agencies on Aging. They had a rework of their naming and their branding, and so they're now U.S. Aging. But I sit on that board. And then as part of the policy briefing, we had the opportunity to hear from policymakers and their staff members around everything aging, things going on around funding and resources at the federal level, which, like I've mentioned, that really dictates the funding that we receive here at the Area Agency on Aging and how we're able to serve our 3-county region. So it was really nice to be able to meet with those folks in person. Administration on Community Living is the federal department that manages our funding, and I've told my staff I don't hesitate to go and introduce myself to represent our Region 4 of Colorado, and very quickly be sure that we're sharing challenges and wins, and some of that. And so as follow up with that, that. I've already had meetings with Senator Hickenlooper's office. And next week I'll be meeting with Senator Bennett's office. And so very excited about that. And we're working on getting in front of Congressman Lamborn's office as well, since he oversees, he's part of Congressional District 5. So the last part that I want to share is that there is a state Commission on Aging, Colorado Commission on Aging, and we will be sharing this out. There is a rework that has just been, or that's going through the legislature right now, to rework the operations and what the Colorado Commission on Aging looks like, how it operates, its duties, scope of work, and that kind of thing. And we'll be sharing the application out to the community. We'll be sending that specifically to our regional Commission on Aging here, as well as our RAC members and others across the community, because we want to ensure that there's representation from our region. And so we'll be sharing that out to you as well. So if there are no questions, that is the end of my report.
Just a question, Jody, on the grant to the Elder Justice Center. Did I understand you to say it's focused on mental health and behavioral health?
Yes,
I mean,
that's
the
correct.
piece that has gone over. Okay,
correct. Yes,
thank you.
Thank you.
So I can give a little bit more context on that as well. So the Elder Justice Center it's a new nonprofit, but the work has a long history. And so what we are looking at is advocating and reducing and eliminating elder abuse. So it consists of a multidisciplinary team. We have gerontologists, we work with our fire department, police, on how we can look at really advocating and bringing these folks that are high risk into safer spaces. And so it's very exciting. There's a lot of models showing that having a multidisciplinary team is more effective at pushing forward the injustice. So it's very exciting to have this collaboration with PPHCG and continue to move forward. Also, I want to make sure that I'm including our Zoom folks. Not sure if there's any additional questions or comments that folks wanted to bring forward. Okay, hearing none, we will move forward with our commission workshop discussion. So I'm really excited for us to spend some thoughtful time on a high level working through this concept. A big thanks to Dave and Paula for being a part of advocating for this. As we're starting to move forward with new levels of intentionality, how can we really come together as a team and work through our mission, our vision, our thoughts, moving forward to our buckets of intention. So we have set aside the next May COA meeting from 2 to 5 instead of 3 to 5, and we will have it facilitated with Pat Urban. And we are excited for this beginning conversation to be high level. What are we looking for to make sure that as we move into the May discussion, to have a really robust workshop. And we would love for it to be in person for all folks that can attend in person, and just working through a lot of these details. Dave has been very supportive of working through how we can be strategic. And if he feels comfortable, we can bring some of those high level thoughts forward. And also, I just wanted to make this an open discussion of what are we seeing would be important discussion items as we're preparing for May.
I guess just specifically on the workshop itself, when is it going to be? I thought I did.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so Mike is on. So just question, when is the workshop going to be?
It's going to be next COA's meeting, so May 18th. Okay. Instead of the 3 to 5 time, it'll be 2 to 5.
2 to 5, May 18th. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So I think the idea of a workshop is really, really good. I think we've all in various work environments participated in things that are somewhat like an offsite or something out of the routine, out of the normal course of business. And I think it can be very, very helpful. I think that coming into a workshop like this, I think it's really important that each of us spend time beforehand kind of thinking through and formulating, okay, so what is it that this commission really could and should be doing? There are documents that say, here's some things, and here's some other things, and here's some other things. But as a new body under PPACG, I think it's really incumbent upon us to kind of say, okay, we've been members or participants in the various communities. And it's a matter then of just trying to say, okay, so I think we should be able to do these types of things. This is the time to go through that. Getting down to the specifics of a mission, the purpose for the organization, ultimately into the bylaws. I mean, that's kind of the path that we're on. It's not light work, but it's brain work and it's heart work. So I think that just encouragement and encourage everyone just to give it your thoughts, best thoughts before that May meeting. Maybe even share information beforehand so that it's not completely, well, here's my look and yours looks like this. And, you know, maybe if we tried not to coordinate it, but just to say, here's some thoughts and here's some other thoughts, so that we begin to come forward and be a little bit more productive, perhaps, depending on where the workshop facilitator leads us. So those are some thoughts.
I agree. Also, Paula, myself, and Melissa, we will be going over some of the historical data to give a bit of a snapshot as well, which we're excited to incorporate in the discussion. So I think it's really important to see, you know, where we were, where we are, where we're going. So that's great. Do we have any comments in the chat, Melissa?
So Mei-Ling, this is Melissa. I also just wonder, you know, we do have a scope of work. So I'll just add to kind of what Dave talked about in terms of, you know, having people, you know, think about, you know, what is the commission? What should it be doing? And just kind of put out there that we do have a mission and vision, and I can send this all out to everyone, you know, later this week as just kind of a reminder as people are thinking through, you know, so what should the commission be doing? So there is a mission and vision, there is a scope of work, statement of work, the bylaws, which are just bylaws, not a whole lot, you know, guiding kind of the statement of work. So just kind of some good tools to be looking at as well. You know, and just kind of, I don't know if some of the people who are sitting in the room today might want to comment a little bit about kind of what they remember from when the commission was created under the city of Colorado Springs. I don't know if we want to have maybe a little bit of that conversation, if anyone has any kind of comments or thoughts to share around that.
Yeah, I would encourage, as the preparations are made for the workshop and as some of these materials go out, that the current membership really take a really hard look at past documentation that was created during the transition, and realizing that most, if not all, of the current membership was not part of the transition process. So you really are able to come at this with a really fresh perspective, and build this out to be something perhaps even better than what it was when it came over from the city, and what was originally created during the process then. And so I would really encourage each of you to spend some time on that, because ultimately the workshop can only be as good as what is brought to that workshop, right? It sounds kind of obvious when you say it out loud, but that is truly the reality. So really encourage that. From that side as well, I'm going to put on my AAA director hat for just a moment, and encourage you, as you're working through any given month, preparing for a AAA, or excuse me, for a Commission on Aging meeting, or if you are participating in a discussion amongst members or executive committee or whatever that might look like, representing the Commission on Aging, to keep a tally of your time. The reason for that is exceptionally important because of the funding that we receive through the Older Americans Act and the Older Coloradans Act. There's funding that we receive that if we do not have a match, we cannot spend, we cannot distribute, and therefore it sits in a pot. We want to make sure that the funding that this region receives is able to be distributed and used. And so one of the ways that we do that, and the way we receive or we calculate our match portion, is through your volunteer efforts. And so if you spend looking forward to the May 18th time, and you calculate that you spend 10 hours in preparation, please communicate that to Melissa, who tracks all of that for us. Every hour of your service as a volunteer for the Commission on Aging translates to a specific dollar figure, which in turn translates to in-kind match, which frees up our funding for programs and services. So that enables us to assist our providers to access their funding in such a way that sometimes there isn't as much match, or just to free those dollars up altogether. So I would encourage you to do that. If you have any questions about that process and are having trouble sleeping at night, let me know. I will get you loads of information, but that's what it boils down to, is please track your time, submit that on a monthly basis to Melissa when she's tracking that information. And we certainly do appreciate all your efforts. Even those of you who are in the room today, you may see on your sign-in, there's usually a mileage column that translates to match as well. That means we can free up more funding for services out to our region. So thank you for my little commercial moment there. So thanks.
Just to follow up on the workshop, I'm doubly retired, so I have time, and I tend to like to read things and write things. So I put together a number of things. It might be worthwhile, others as well, in preparation for that workshop, if there were a central file, like a workshop file, that we could deposit. Here's some things and sent in. This would be yours, and Dayton, you'd have some, and it's all available for all of us to look at here in a common server here. I don't know if we could do that, but I think something like that might be helpful as well, so that I can benefit from your thoughts on it. Same thing with Paula and the others here, the commissioners. Go ahead, say something.
Yeah, just to, if I may, add to what Dave is saying here. I've just in other circles and similar workshops where it's really an opportunity to precedent set, and it's almost like a retreat. And I think the planning component of that is really an inclusive sort of process, so that we're all going in with a certain expectation. We know kind of the formatting, if you will. And so I'm really encouraged to hear that a facilitator has been chosen. I'm interested in what the process of that facilitator and their proposal of what their recommendation of what this workshop will look like. It just peripherally to me, and some things to throw out there, I think the bylaws are well written. The purposes to me are great guardrails. What I've seen in other circles is real sort of infrastructural focus is important, not only in terms of like, equipping our different committees up for success. So what is our board recruitment strategies? What are those measurements? What are those sort of collective definitions and measures that we're kind of gauging our success upon, and even being in agreement on what success looks like for this committee? And so I think it's a great platform to have conversations, not only in getting an agreement of what our purpose and how we function, but also developing some processes that build on the bylaw guardrails, if you will, to develop some processes that will have some staying power, and we'll also set those up for success after us.
I agree, Dayton. I think that the idea of us being really intentional moving forward, I know that we had buckets previously set out, which was housing, transportation, and behavioral health. When we look to what Melissa nodded at is the history of this commission is we are here to advocate for aging issues in our community. So I think it's important to have a concept of having some definitions or buckets of where we want to specialize, but it's also important to be nimble, especially living in the climate we're living in right now. It's important to be adaptive and responsive. I think that really leads to utilizing applicable research, even if it's our lived experiences, that is a form of research, so that we can be really intentional with carving out that 6 months, that 12 months, and being very resilient to our community's needs. So I appreciate that. Dave?
Just sorry, go ahead.
Mary, go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to add, I recall the commission meeting, and I attended some of the meetings when they were under the city meeting at Kono. And there were a ton of community input. So I'm not sure, and I've listened to a couple of the council meetings recordings. And so I'm not sure if that community engagement is still there, or that input is still there, but I'd love to, in this document, I believe David, that you said is having that history to know what the commission was working on with those past community inputs, and where those things landed. Did those issues get elevated or dormant or forgotten about? So I think that'll be really helpful in the discussion.
I was just going to follow up on the documents. I think that the bylaws as written, they're focused on the purpose as written. I think that there's a disconnect between the statement of work, which predates the bylaws, pretty significant. So I think that's why I'm saying that I think it would be really worthwhile if there's a central repository, file folder, workshop filled or something, where people can say, oh, that's what the statement of work says. You look at that and you look at the bylaws, you say, it's not this, it's more of a conflict. So that's one of the things that I think it's incumbent upon us to digest that. I'd also point out that in the summer of 2021, Midi Pedrosa, who was, I think, the chair at that time, coming over from the city, she had a number of different thoughts that were put together as well. So, I mean, and that thinking may or may not be something to look at as well. But again, if it's centrally available, I think we all benefit from that. Just to see, okay, the current people that spent a number of years working under the city as the commission there, here's what they were thinking about as they went forward. And then get caught up in this fairly rapid transfer from city to the PPACG, courtesy of Jody. Jody did a good job of making that happen in a very short period of time. So, I mean, those are all really good things, but there's a lot of materials that are out there, and it's incumbent upon us, I think, to look at them as commissioners as we try to work towards this workshop on the 18th.
So I'd just like to ask if people would be interested in a Google document to, you know, kind of access that material, or if there's other thoughts of some type of a joint folder.
I think that's a great idea.
I have a thought.
Okay.
I had to step out, so I don't know if it was discussed. The mediator of the facilitator of the workshop, does he know what he's facilitating, and where is he getting that information? We just had, before I left Daybreak, there was a board retreat, and that person sent out a little questionnaire for each board member to answer questions about vision, direction, all of that, and then compiled them so that when she came into the retreat, was very well prepared, already knowing what he thought, she thought, and was able to lead the discussion in the direction that it needed to go, depending on what people's thoughts were. That pre-work, I think, is essential for the person leading, and for us to not waste our time with a Google Doc that's just going to sit there and us mulling it over versus a mediator having direction and input directly from the people that can help lead the discussion. And I have a copy of that sheet.
Oh yeah, we love
I
that.
would
We
be
just
happy to
got
share it.
we just got confirmation late last night and this morning
Mhm.
that she's available, and so we've had about 20 minutes to talk about this. But that is exactly one of the conversations that Mei Ling and I had, was securing thoughts and input from the entire membership well in advance, so that everyone's coming in prepared to work instead of having to reintroduce and rehash at the very beginning. Let's maximize the time, because effectively we have a month between now and the time of the next meeting. And so, yeah, it's right on. Right, you're
I'll
right on
forward
target.
those to Melissa.
Perfect. Yeah. If you would CC Mei Ling on that, because they're going to be working on that. Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you very much, Paula.
Yeah. Again, if I may, it's such a great point that that pre-planning component is so essential and should be inclusive. And what I'm hearing in Dave's thoughts and also others is that like Mary's, for example, and keeping the integrity in terms of community input, those pieces. It's almost as if there's kind of an introspection and infrastructure build of how do we see ourselves, how do we function as a committee, and then there's also that sort of external facing piece of how do we interface with others. And I kind of see those as being sort of two streams of thought of what are our internal operations and how do we kind of nail down and iron out all these processes, and then how do we also interface and what are our strategic goals in our impact, and how do we measure that impact on the external facing with these setup processes internally. So I think there's sort of two schools of thought that this platform may be a really good sort of place to have that conversation.
Yeah, I think that really highlights the need for having open lines of communication, that we can streamline some of our processes so that we can have, the classic well-oiled machine internally, whether that's knowing how we're going to engage with outreach, membership engagement, setting the agenda items, how we're interfacing on community issues. So I think that highlighting the needs of processes and how we can make that really fluid is important. I'm also curious for others' insight of our markers of success. As I've highlighted before, I feel that having these conversations is the first marker of success, but we have also other modes of potentially channeling our engagement, which I'm excited to hear folks' thoughts on, whether it's immediately now or as we move forward into May.
Well, I think to engage with the public, it would be nice to be identified as a commissioner so that they know we're a sounding board for them. I know there was discussion about name tags, and we discussed at our meeting a few weeks ago, maybe because most of us have name tags already. I don't know, Dave, do you have just a David Betzler name tag? No. Anyway. Oh. Okay. Well, anyway, I was thinking for those of us that don't want to wear a row of name tags on our chest, maybe just have the ribbon like you get at conferences, a first time attendee, exhibitor, vendor, that we could just Velcro often on our name tag so that it identifies us in an event that we are commissioners. And then after the workshop, we'll know what to say when someone asks, what do you do as a commissioner? Let me, did you get a drink? No, just kidding. But yeah, I just think to be identified would be important.
I'm looking into prices for the Velcro little strips for the name badges. Okay.
Yeah, again, if I may just quickly outline the way that I kind of have seen strategic planning outline and just conversations unfold on different projects. And within other organizations. To me, it's really gaining buy-in and rallying around the mission and what our common purpose is, why we're all sitting around the table, and getting our real why around here, and developing, like, aligning that with the mission and purpose that is clearly in our bylaws and some of the guardrails that are already set up. Second, to me, it goes to defining success. And that aligns with our means of measuring success, which I say is generally KPIs. What are our key performance indicators? And those are our means of showing whether we're moving the needle or not moving in the needle in the way that we have defined success in different areas. And that might be the way the public perceives us, community awareness of us as an example. And we set out different ways of quantifying that so we know where or where not we're moving the needle. And when you have those sort of tools set in place, you're able to have conversations on whether it be celebrating our successes and showing that needle move, or also resolving what's keeping the needle stagnant or moving it backwards in regress. And from there, it's kind of recasting goals if we do hit those in the timelines that we set for ourselves. And so I think if we are really structured and strategic in that way, and again, this platform is wonderful. I really appreciate you, Mei Ling, and others, Jody, kind of precedent setting with us coming in with fresh eyes and it being an opportunity to have discussions like that.
I think that also highlights the need for having a really diverse approach, really celebrating DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, whether it is in our outreach plan, our strategic plan, or our markers of success. Because if we're not relevant and research-based on how we can be inclusive of our community, that's not a marker of success. So for example, looking at outreach efforts and how it may be vary by demographics. So if you are an older adult and you don't utilize technology, how can we, outreach to our community that might be technology incapacitated or burdened? Looking at how maybe someone that's not an English speaker, how they can be a part of the discussion. So I think that really centralizing our markers of success in a very inclusive way that will make it be truly robust and truly relevant to the needs of our community. Paula?
We also discussed getting some publicity around the commission once we have our ducks in a row. I have access to the emails for all of the TV stations. I have a personal direct access to Fox 21 morning program. So once we get organized, we could have a representative from each county get on and talk about what the commission has done, is doing, will do. And I know I can get an article in the Courier that is owned by the Gazette that maybe they would push to the Gazette. But I think people need to know what we're doing. I think we would get public comment, possibly more engagement with that. But I think once you tell me to say the word, I can get access to all of that.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And we would include Jessica in that process as well. So that's fantastic. Thank you, Paula. Lucy, would you like to give your comment, or should I read it out, Melissa? Lucy, do you want to go ahead and share? Perfect.
Sure. I'm just, Paula knows how to get a hold of me as well, but just, put me on your list of contacts. I'm happy to, if the timing's right, include an article for you guys in the next Blue Book. We can do those online. I can do online interviews. I mean, when, like Paula said, when you're ready to go, reach out to me and I am happy to help, promote, support, whatever I can, partner, however we can help. I'd like to.
I know I'm brand new. But in terms of success, and from my understanding of the commission at large, is We listen to our community. We find relevant issues that our community is facing or older adults are facing. We really dig deep and figure out if that's an issue that we want to promote in terms of elevation of exposure. And success is elevating that exposure and that those issues are broadly known. And then there are changes, either policy, organizational, structurally changes to help support our older adults in those issues. So in my head, that's kind of success from what I know of the commission right now.
I would agree on that. And I'm excited for other thoughts as well. I think of, for example, a tool, the Better Aging Civic Index with National Civic League. They do nationwide programming, looking at how by having the community involved and having purposeful dialogue and deliberation, so really being able to dive in on these issues, that is a marker of success, and how we can raise awareness, bump it up, advocate, potentially do research. So I would track that, but I'm curious for other thoughts. Perfect. So I appreciate the fact that we had,
Actually, I kind of do. Brand new, and I'm kind of just as a guest, and I'm hearing different topics and things that want to be talked about at the workshop. And it's been a great discussion, but I'm sitting here confused as to what the workshop's going to do. Does that make sense?
Perfect. So I can give some background. So we are, I just came on board with my chair role, and we have a vice chair position opened up. And as we're starting to prepare for our next phase of interaction, really looking at how we can be thoughtful and organizational with having deliberative dialogue on the setup of the commission, and how we have new members coming on board as well. And so really having not necessarily a clean slate, but a fresh perspective. And when we're looking at the breakdown of it, we're wanting to look at the historical data. So where we came from, looking at our goal setting, and then also preparing ourselves for what our future interaction will look like. So we had set the intention of 3 buckets, but just looking at, do we want to change those buckets? Do we want it to be more fluid? But also looking at our documents and mission on how we can just have a really solid foundation preparing for the future.
That helps me understand. I would suggest, just coming from my background in kind of strategic planning and wanting to make this a workable workshop, of everybody that's currently on, like as Paula set up with where she just came from, of getting that information to the mediator ahead of time, because as somebody who's done these meetings before, that then gives me an idea of how to structure the day and that presentation. The document's great, but it's kind of static. You could do that as well, so that those of us, or those are new coming on, have some place to go find all that information in one central location. But then for the mediator themselves, the email or whatever, the quick letter questionnaire, so that way that sets them up ready, and it comes into, as Jody was saying, that workable workshop. And it's not, you're trying to catch up that morning to what are we going to do today. It's already been decided. The mediator can just hit the ground running and go with that. My thoughts as kind of the new person sitting in the room.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. We are going to go into announcements in our calendar. If there's no other comments, thank you, Danielle, for that. I appreciate that. Are there any comments in the chat? Are we on track with that too? Okay, perfect. So we will go into our calendar. So May workshop on the 18th, And then we need to have a discussion. Melissa, if you don't mind adding to this, is there's a June conflict with the senior summit with Silver Key. So looking at if we wanted to potentially after May, when we're going into June, having some adjustments. Melissa, did you feel comfortable adding to that?
So just a heads up. First, I'm going to let Dayton share about the senior summit. And then when he gets done with that, just kind of a heads up that literally our PPCOA meeting happens on that same day. And so, you know, for people who might be attending that senior summit, even if it's over, people might not want to have any more brain power to come to a Commission on Aging meeting, or, you know, there may be happy hours and celebrations happening with the senior summit. So we may not have a Commission on Aging meeting at all that day. So it's either canceled for that month or have to reschedule. So we'll circle back to that in a second, but I'll let Dayton share a little bit about the senior summit.
Thank you. Very excited to share the who, what, when, where, and why of this event. So Silver Key is in partnership with the Pikes Peak Senior News, and we're inviting the community to join us on Wednesday, June 15th, has been talked about, for a full day of festivities to support the Pikes Peak region senior community. This event is at no cost, but we ask that those who plan on attending register in advance, and you can do that on our website. The summit will begin with a morning benefit breakfast with any proceeds, so there will be an ask that will go directly to supporting seniors who Silver Key serves. As the day goes on, there will be an expo with vendors, health screenings, and other valuable information sessions where tables of partners will be. In addition, we have asked some very esteemed speakers to help with some very important topic coverage. There are plans to be around, I want to say, 16 different educational sessions throughout the day. And so we're really looking forward to that. Those topics range from, policy and funding to mental health and behavioral health, to transportation, caregiving, and really relevant topics that we're seeing in the aging space today. Where this event is, it's at the Antlers Summit Ballroom, downtown Colorado Springs. And again, the cost is complimentary. We're encouraging all to attend. It is an inclusive event where we're even inviting our clients at Silver Key, professionals, as well as families to attend. So happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, you can find more information on Silver Key's website, silverkey.org. Thanks.
I will share, we, PPAAA, Area Agency on Aging, will have a table at the expo. And so that was actually going to be part of my ask, is to be aware of that, because we would love to have commission members helping on that table and engaging with the public. As Paula so eloquently mentioned earlier, this is a perfect opportunity to, you don't have to go knock on doors. They're going to be there. So love to have commission members there as well.
I'm going to have my own table for my business. Yeah.
I would just say that what you're saying, Jody, is really great. It'd be nice to have something on a piece of paper that says, here's the mission, here's the function, here's what we're doing as the COA. So that's a handout for people coming by. And instead of just a verbal broadcast, it would be, okay, here's a quick summary. If you're interested, here's the website, those types of things. So I mean, that's more of an urgency than to really buckle down for that workshop. So we can kind of nail these things down in time for the June expo.
And we can cross promote that. We could, perhaps Silver Key might have some of those materials at their table, and Paula could have some at her table, and we'd have some. This is a great opportunity for us as an organization, and you all as commission members, to also look at opportunities to recruit additional members, not just who we are and what we do, but would you like to be involved? Because so many do want to be involved, they just don't know how, and so this is a perfect opportunity. It's a considerably different avenue of advocacy than our regional advisory council. You know, they're in place to oversee and be part of the citizen input to the funding side, but this obviously is an opportunity for folks to participate in the policy and legislative side.
And I'll throw in one more thing. So we do have a little flyer that talks about both the RAC and the Commission on Aging. And Debbie Swanson has attended quite a few outreach events with me as a commission member. And so we have done that in the past. And so looking forward to doing more of that, of course. So we do have that, Dave, and then we can edit it as we get more details and information. Because it's been really good to be able to talk to the general public and just kind of say, because you know, people are like, do I want to do the Regional Advisory Council or is it more the Commission on Aging? You know, what are they more aligned with? And in the past, Debbie Swanson has been the go-to person from the commission who kind of joined in with me at those tables out in the community. So as we continue that, anybody else who wants to join me, great. And of course, Dave, when you were on the RAC, you went with me, so you know what that's like now that I think about it. But anyway, all right.
And I realize there's no budget. So if that document is approved through the PPACG, I'm happy to take it and have them printed up. You know, whatever needs to be done.
I appreciate that. We can swing that part. No sweat there. Thank you. That part is set aside.
And then, so in terms of the June meeting, I think that we will talk more about this in May unless Melissa has an official recommendation, but we can discuss what makes better sense of either rescheduling or canceling the June based off of the summit. But very excited to see all of this opportunity and movement and engagement with the community. So great. And then just reminders that we have our executive committee meetings on the first Monday at 11. We will be connecting with Pat to further flesh out our agenda item and really be purposeful with that. And then our advocacy committee meetings, Jessica McMullen, myself have been working towards that and supporting one another. So I will move forward to any member announcements. I know Dayton did a big plug for the summit. That's fantastic. Are there any other announcements? Go ahead, Paula.
Sorry, I keep.
Don't apologize for stepping.
Were we looking at a different time on Mondays for that committee meeting? Because it's hard for me to do 11 and the first Monday. It's just I have a standing conflict.
Yeah, we can circle back.
Okay,
on. That's great. Go ahead, Dayton.
As I'd mentioned earlier in my introduction, as chair of the Colorado Coalition on Elder Rights and Abuse Prevention, we are holding a statewide committee with some intention on getting this education opportunity to those who are hardest to reach in our state for mandatory reporting education. So we're partnering with the Attorney General's office and some other really key people to put that training on in August. So I can follow up with Melissa with some more details on that event, but just want to get that on the radar. I also know Innovations in Aging is having an event upcoming as well, which I will follow up and get on the radar of this commission.
I'd like to add that not this Saturday, but next Saturday, I believe the 30th, is Caregiver Pampering Day. And I believe there's still room if caregivers need to, would like to register. And if people are interested, I can send them the information, but it's a great event if we know any caregivers out there who like to get pampered.
Pampering Day's registration did close on Friday. Sorry.
Bummer. Sorry.
Well, perfect. Thank you for our announcements. Do I need to?
I have one more. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
May is Older Americans Month, and I got a email from the Colorado Commission on Aging listing of several events. A lot are virtual. If I could share that email, that could be shared out to the commission, I would appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
Melissa, would you share briefly World Elder Abuse Awareness Day events? That it's June, but we don't want to miss that in case we miss the date.
So the Pikes Peak Elder Abuse Coalition, they host World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, kind of awareness events in past years. Although since COVID hit, the in-person efforts have been put aside. This year, they are going to be doing it again in person. And the date that they have selected is June 17th. So it'll be Friday following the senior summit. And it is mostly a full day event. And Dr. Sherry Gibson is the keynote speaker. And there will be many community organizations there dedicated to raising awareness around elder abuse prevention and neglect, primarily in El Paso County. There were efforts underway to talk about doing some Elder Abuse Awareness Day events in Teller County at the farmers market. But I don't know if those conversations are continuing. And so stay tuned for that as well.
Great, thank you. So we'll go on to items for next meeting, the workshop on May 18th, also having discussions on a vice chair. And I think that's where we're at. Perfect. And then deciding on June's meeting. If there are no other discussion items, we're good to go. It's adjourned on 4:15. Thanks everyone for your time and looking forward to continuing great work.